Okay guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Vivian Martin, and today I will go over the basic principles of how to not get ganked. Now, there are two methods, more like two tricks, and the first one is using Instadock and Insta-undock bookmarks, and the second is using the micro warp drive Cloak Trick. So I'm just going to show you how this works. First of all, I'll show you how the Instadock works. So let's say I want to go to the State War Academy. I'm going to set destination first. Before you do anything, set destination, then let's assume you have the Instadock coordinate. You probably won't, but let's assume you do. You warp to it, and you press autopilot. Your ship will start aligning, and it will enter warp. Now, when it exits warp, it will not be at the outer edges of the docking ring. It will be dead center within the station, like literally physically inside the station. That will become obvious when we exit warp. So where we are going to land is literally inside the station. Now there is no being bumped off. You are instantly going to dock. Unless you forgot to autopilot and you don't dock, then you're dead anyways. So yeah, this is how it works. Then I'm going to show you how the instant undock works as well. So let's say you undocked. You're in a freighter. You're in a ship that aligns in like 40 seconds. That's terrible, right? And now let's say you need to warp in the opposite direction. Like you need to warp backwards. Then you're not just waiting 40 seconds. You need to stop and then turn around and then accelerate another 40 seconds. So that's more like a minute. And during that minute, you will get ganked. So how do we avoid that? We use an instant undock. Let's say you have an instant undock. You probably won't, but let's say you do. You just right click and warp. Now you are immediately in warp. Why this works, why this is possible is because the undock direction is constant. It does not change. Whether you undock right now or tomorrow or in a month, it does not change. Well, at least not that often. So once you have a coordinate set up, it will be good enough. So let's just go back. I'm just going to use dock here because no one's around and this ship is not particularly valuable. Okay, so you get it. Instadock and Instandocks are cool. So how do we make them? Now making it is pretty easy. You can, with an Instadock, you can even make it with a shuttle or a capsule if you want. I'll even show you that. I'll show you how to do this in a capsule. So you just undock. What you have to do is you immediately stop your ship. Now, just zoom out, zoom all the way out. You will be exiting the station in a direction, right? Now, that is where you're going to put the instant undock. Where you put the instant dock is you want to put it in the middle of this ring. So whichever direction you're coming from, you maximize the chances, or rather minimize the chances of being bumped off. Now, this all sounds complicated, right? Basically, what we're saying is go into the station. So whichever direction you're in right now, just put your camera so that the station is in the background. Then just go to it. It will start burning its engines toward the station, and that's fine. Like if it goes into the station, it's fine. Okay, we are almost at the center of the station. You want to get as close as possible. Now here, press the L key. Okay, you see I have it already on. You press the L key, and then you press this button. Add location. Now you can name this something something instant dock or whatever you want, doesn't matter. I already have one, so I'm just gonna use that. Now, you're probably not gonna be able to warp to somewhere else because you're gonna get bumped by the station. So just dock. Again, like in the end, this is an instant dock, right? So you should be able to dock. Now, that should be quite like obvious how it works. You warp to that point instead of clicking dock. I showed you that earlier, right? Now, for making the instant undock, it's slightly more complicated, but not really. Basically, what you need is a very, very fast ship. So I recommend the Punisher. This is not my fit. Well, it is my fit. I did come up with it, but it's such a common design that everyone uses this. I can't say I came up with it because, well, I did come up with it, but there's probably someone who did it before me. So yeah, it's not a very original design. I will post a link to this because if you want to just use this, you can. So this thing can go up to 7,700 meters per second. So how do we get the instant undock? You undock. Now you will be facing in the direction you should be going. So what you do is you put the mouse where your control panel is, then immediately spam plus. Just set your ship to full speed. Now before you turn on the prop module, just spam it and make sure you're heading in the right direction. Because if you turn it on before that, it can be tricky. As you can see, we are slightly heading left from the ship's perspective. So if we just view it like that, you can see we are heading to the left. So we're going to correct that. How do we do that? You put your mouse over this first-person camera. You should see the hotkeys, which are bound to your pitch up and pitch down, and turn left, turn right. You're going to use those hotkeys. I have it set to the default keys. So what we have to do is we need to turn the ship right. I'm going to press the right arrow once, and the ship will correct. Now this should be good. We're facing a little bit down, right? So we're going to go slightly up. Just up arrow once. I think we should do it again. Now, getting this perfectly matters if your ship is slow. But if your ship is fast, it doesn't really matter that much. And the reason for that is, let's say an object is here. Okay, let's say an object is here. Then there's another object here. Y. Then you are here. If a nearby object moves, it's more obvious, right? But if a further away object moves, it needs to move more for you to notice. It's the same thing when you're driving on a highway, and if you look at the sun, it stays stationary. But if you look at the moving cars, they just swoosh by, right? So if your ship is slow, get it like dead center. If it's not, just burn. So we're just gonna start burning the micro warp drive, and you just make sure it's in the right direction. I think it's slightly tilted right. I'm just gonna press the left arrow once again. It should correct. And I think it's going in the right direction. Now, another way to check is turn the camera like this, so you're looking at the back of your ship, then zoom all the way out. Now, you want to look at the center point of your station. Just imagine there's a point in the middle of the station, and then imagine your ship. Now, it needs to be in a line, like in a single line, so that you can instantly warp away. So it would be around this would be right. Now, get your mouse. My mouse is currently invisible, but get your mouse to the center of the screen and then double click. Just trust me, you think you're clicking at a station, but you're not. Just make sure you don't click this. Don't click this. Click just this dead center of your screen. Now you should be aligned to. It's kind of like aligning to the North Star. Since it's so far away, it stays stationary, right? It's the same thing. If you I think we're already out of the camera range, but yeah, if we align straight ahead, that point is so far away that it might as well just be stationary, and you are burning to that point. So You just leave it like this. You go do whatever you want to do. Get lunch, get dinner, whatever. Then come back, and then you should have a way far away point. Now, then what you do is you save the location. You call it something something instant undock, and boom, you have an instant undock. So I'm just going to show you that I'm just going to prove to you that it works. Again, I have one made, like pre-made. Okay, time to test our coordinates. Now, obviously I have pre-made them, but you would have just created them, right? So undock, then just get your locations folder up and right click the instant undock coordinates and warp to 0. Your ship should immediately enter warp. If it doesn't, you did something wrong and you have to redo it. It can be wrong sometimes if you burn your micro warp drive in the wrong direction. So you have to check before just calling it good and leaving to another system. Make sure it works. Just check if it works. Then how to use the instant undock. You right click, set destination on the station. Then you right click the instant dock coordinate. You warp to 0, and then autopilot. Make sure you press the autopilot after you click warp. So you enter warp and then you do autopilot. That way the autopilot comes in last. So your manual instructions go in first, and then there's autopilot, and the autopilot will handle the docking. And you are safe from being bumped. So yeah, that is how the Instadock and Insta-undock works. Now, we will go over the micro warp drive cloak trick. So before we introduce the micro warp drive cloak trick, we need to go over some basics on how this works. I've seen a lot of videos on explaining this, but I have never seen a video which explains how this works, why this works. So I'll just explain it in detail right now. In order for a ship to warp, it needs to be, let me get the exact number. In order for a ship to warp, it needs to be at 75% of its maximum velocity. Now, this maximum velocity is not constant. It means the maximum velocity at the time of that server tick. This is going to be important. And then, well, that's it. And it needs to be aligned, but when you exit a gate, you are considered aligned because you're not moving. It's weird, but when you exit the Stargate, but you can just treat yourself as aligned. So this is all you have to care about. Now, when you put on a micro warp drive, if you see the attributes here, your speed goes up by 510%. This comes from the micro warp drive. Okay. Now, a cloak will bring that down by 75%. Now, we typically use the improved cloaking device Tech 2. This is pretty cheap. The cloak will bring you down 75%. So, what happens, theoretically, if we turn on both at the same time? If we turn them on both, what happens is, I need a calculator. Okay, let's say 100 times, that should be times 6.1, then times 0.25. The final result is plus 52.5% max velocity. But there's another thing you have to consider. Acceleration works by multiplication and it's not additive. So let me just, okay, I'll show you. So if you look at my speedometer, right now I am stationary. I am at 0. Now, if I press plus, that will send my ship to max speed. But look at how fast I reach max speed. And now it's been like a second and I've hit 200, right? Now this is a relatively agile ship, but what I'm about to show you will be counterintuitive if you're used to other games. Now let's say I have the micro warp drive on. Now the maximum velocity goes up by 510%, right? Now see what happens when I set it to full speed. It immediately blows past 200. Meaning, acceleration is defined by how many seconds, let's say 5 seconds, it takes to get to max velocity. It's not defined as, let's say 10 meters per second or 10 meters per second squared. No, it is defined as how many seconds it takes for you to get max speed. Meaning, if you get your max speed up, that increases your acceleration as well. So, a plus 52.5% modifier on your speed means you accelerate 52.5% faster. Meaning your align time, if your align time was 15 seconds, it will get down to 10 seconds. Now this will be important later. So let's say these are both on. Now usually they cannot be on simultaneously, but if you turn the micro warp drive on and then you turn the cloak on, the micro warp drive will be on for one cycle. That one cycle lasts 10 seconds. And if you can get your speed from 0 to 75% velocity within that 10 seconds, the moment you decloak, the micro warp drive will be off, the cloak will be off, your speed will be back to normal. Not this increased speed, you'll be back to normal speed, and the 75% of the normal speed will be obviously lower than the higher speed, right? So the chances of you instantly entering warp will be pretty much 100% unless you royally screw it up. So I'll just show you how this works. In order to do this, you will need a ship that is fitted with both a micro warp drive and a cloak. Now, fitting a cloak also messes with your targeting system, and your targeting speed will be reduced. So this is not very useful for combat ships, but for mining ships and haulers, this can be a lifesaver. Okay, so here we have a hauler that is fitted with a micro warp drive and a cloak. We're going to use these two in tandem in order to make the insta warp. Now, another advantage of doing cloak, or rather the main reason we do the cloak in the first place, is to not get locked on by other targets, by other ships. Because if we're cloaked, no one else can see us. Meaning, we're basically invincible because you can't shoot what you can't see in Eve. So if you're invisible from the enemy, then they can't really hit you. The only method of hitting you would be a smart bomb or using other methods, which are found in low sec or null sec. But if you mainly go through high sec, which if you're worried about ganks, you're usually going through high sec, right? In high sec, the only thing you have to worry about is like targeted attacks. The attacks where people lock onto your ship and then fire a weapon. So you will basically be immune to those type of attacks because targeting a ship takes 2 seconds and you will decloak and cloak again or decloak and jump within the span of 2 seconds. And I'll show you how. So let's say I want to go to Ojaman. Ojaman, I will align, micro warp drive, cloak. We are in cloak and the micro warp drive is cycling. Now when that cycles, I will decloak and jump. Decloak, jump. And I am in warp. This is pretty simple. And once you get the hang of it, once your muscle memory is baked in, this should be pretty easy. And you will be able to go through choke points like Widama pretty easily. And another thing to mention is go to your micro warp drive, right click, and turn auto repeat to off. It should be like this if you first fit your ship. Turn it off so you don't have to manually deactivate it after the first cycle. Now, because of the cloak, it will deactivate, but if you don't turn it off, it can get glitchy. So let's go to Psychonin, and I'll align, micro warp drive, cloak. Okay, now here I misclicked and I did the cloak first. Now, if you do this in real life, you are screwed. And there are gankers nearby. The only way to get out of it is just wait for them to disappear or something. Yeah, you are screwed if you do this. So make sure you wait until the microwave drive is on before you cloak. Okay, imagine I'm cloaked. Imagine I just warped out of the gate. Again, align to Psychonet. Micro warp drive, wait for it, cloak. Now I'm cloaked again. Then wait for that micro warp drive cycle to complete and decloak jump.
Warp drive active.
And yeah, that is how it works. Now, if you screw that up like I did, you are dead. But other than that, if you just, don't mess up the order of the keys, you'll be fine. Okay, so I'm going to end the video with one last demonstration of the technique. Wonderful. Yeah, alright, so as you can see, I'm cloaked. Now, align. Micro warp drive. Cloak. Wait for the cycle. Decloak. And jump.
Warp drive active.
Now we are in warp. Safely. So yeah, that is how the micro warp drive cloak trick is done. And if you use these techniques, you should be able to navigate through high sec relatively safely. There is no true safe unless you go to Exordium. Trying to future-proof here. So yeah, if you use these techniques, you will be safe relatively in high sec. Thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Bye safe, everyone.